I'm David Schizer. I'm the Harvey Miller Professor of Law and Economics at Columbia Law School. I was dean for 10 years, and I also ran the Joint Distribution Committee, or JDC, for 3 years. The audience for How to Save the World in 6 Not So Easy Steps is really anyone who works or volunteers at nonprofits. This is a book that I wish I'd had when I started. It's also very much for board members, and I think every member of Columbia Law School's graduating class is going to serve on a board at a nonprofit at some point. But it's also relevant to people who donate to nonprofits, because the message is it's not enough to love the mission. You have to be sure that the mission is being advanced the right way. And the truth is, it's really relevant for everyone, because there are 1.5 million nonprofits in the United States, and they touch every aspect of our lives. So we need to know how to make sure they're effective, and that's what this book is about. I wrote this book because I have a love-hate relationship with nonprofits. I love the missions, but I sometimes find the inefficiency and backward-looking aspect frustrating. This book very much draws on my own experience as a law school dean and as the CEO of a humanitarian organization, the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee, or JDC. As I was starting at JDC, I had conversations with 2 different veterans of the organization. And so one of them said to me, "David, I don't care about JDC at all, and neither should you." I was a bit surprised, but then he went on and he said, "Because what I care about is JDC's clients. So if we have to make changes, we should make them, because the whole point is we have to do what's good for the client." And I think that's exactly right. But in contrast, I had a second conversation with another veteran, and all he wanted to do was to say, "This is how we do things at JDC." And at the end I said, "Hey, it'd be great if you could tell me, what are the things about this place that you don't like and wish would change?" And he looked at me and he said, "No, I'd rather just tell you how we do things here at JDC." And that, unfortunately, is a feeling you see too often, and it can get in the way. I love nonprofits because they're incubators of social change. And the truth is, because we live in a democratic society, government runs based on conventional wisdom, which can be good, but sometimes conventional wisdom is just backward-looking. And this is why we need nonprofits to introduce exciting, important new ideas. It's not an accident that the civil rights movement started in nonprofits, because in Black churches and in nonprofits, people could make this case passionately and persuasively. Eventually, the government caught up. The same pattern has been true in the women's rights movement, the gay rights movement, the environmental movement. The most exciting movements of our time have started in nonprofits. The biggest problem at nonprofits is that success is hard to measure. And so if we're at a for-profit company and things aren't going well, it's easy to see because we're losing money. But nonprofits are supposed to lose money. And so even when the management and the board, even when everybody is committed and capable, they face really hard questions about social return. Is this better? Is this better? And the problem is at nonprofits, not everyone is as capable and committed as everyone else. So how do we get stagnant or misguided nonprofits on track? How do we make sure that they're doing the job they need to do? Well, the best nonprofits do 2 things really well. The first is they're rigorous and they're analytical in looking at different ways to advance their mission. And they'll test them and they'll use data and they will experiment and they will find the best ways. But just knowing isn't enough, because you also have to get everybody to do it. And so that gets us to the second thing, which is advocacy and buy-in. We need employees and volunteers to really believe in the new approach and to push to make it successful, and we need funders to fund it. So the bottom line is the best nonprofits figure out the best way to advance their mission and get everybody on board to do it. And that's what my book is about. Even though nonprofits can be so amazingly different from each other, they do face the same core problems about figuring out what to do and getting everybody on board to do it. And the same kinds of steps are effective in all of these different settings. And for purely scientific reasons, they all begin with the letter P. So we start with the planning process, which can help us figure out what to do and get everybody on board to do it. There's a chapter I call Persevere, which is about getting internal buy-in. The next chapter is Prioritize, which is about figuring out what to do and what not to do. The fourth chapter is called Pivot, which truthfully should have been Experiment, but it doesn't begin with a P. The fifth is called Publicize, and that's about sharing information, holding yourself accountable. And then the last is about fundraising, and it's called Partner, because it's critical to treat your funders as partners. Nonprofits really need a planning process. And one of the reasons is that it's not easy to know the very best way that you can advance your mission. And unfortunately, doing what you've always done can be easy, even seductive. I've spent nearly all of my professional life working at nonprofits, and much of it running nonprofits. Part of the way we dealt with this is we introduced 3 questions that we would ask about everything we did every year. And the 3 questions are: 1, how important is the problem? Because if it's not important, why are we doing it? 2nd, how effective is the response? Because even if the problem is important, it's not a great way to invest your scarce resources if you can't move the needle. So you need the right problem and you need the right response, but you also need to ask a 3rd question, which is, are we the right organization to do this? Do we have a comparative advantage? Is there some unique value that we can offer so that the social value of what we do will be especially important? I actually think the key to raising money at nonprofits is to get your donor involved in the thinking. And there's an old saying that says, when you ask for money, you get advice. And when you ask for advice, you get money. And the key is donors need to understand that the work is their work, and the challenges are their challenges, and the successes are their successes. And once they feel invested in the cause in that personal way, and once they're giving advice, and once they're visiting the work, it's natural that they're going to love the mission as much as we do, and that they're going to want to help.